on this computer. Hey, Judy.
Lisa, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. So I'm playing with my microphone today. So if my voice goes in and out, that's the reason.
I
Keeping an eye
know
on it.
you said it was frustrating to you. I
Yeah,
I'd like you to love it since it was a present from me.
I know, me too. And I've heard so many good things about this kind of microphone.
I
So
know. So
yeah,
have
but
I. That's why.
here's hoping. I see
Okay.
the red light on now, so hopefully that's going to I'll keep an eye on it.
Okay. Sounds
I'm
good.
curious about how to make this microphone work better.
Oh, that leads us to the
Hmm.
importance of being curious, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
We've talked about making this podcast more applicable and connected for people to our writing that we do on a regular basis as Sidetracked Sisters. We don't want to be all, here and there and everywhere like we have been with the podcast, but we're really thinking maybe we want to go in the direction of tying it to our writing somehow. And so that's what we're doing today. And we've been trying to talk about over the last few minutes how to take this past week's
Right.
writing topic and make it something that we can talk about with people.
I think part of it is that the four of us are so close that we take the writings and we can extract from them the concepts that we're talking about and we can put them to work in our lives. But if people read our writings and they don't know us all that well, I think
Mhm.
it becomes harder for them to do that. And
Right.
the value of taking the concepts out of our writing in fact would be more valuable if it led them to curiosity about their own writings.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it does that for us. In the
Right,
past, we've only focused on getting down our writings as a history document
right,
for our loved ones and as something that you can use to build community around, as
correct,
a, something to leave as a legacy for your loved ones.
correct.
And really, when we look at our writing, it's so much more than that.
That's right. I agree with you.
So, really, when we're talking and thinking about encouraging people to write, there are other levels to our writing that we really haven't talked a lot about. And the first part that we kind of wanted to talk about today is really, like we said at the very beginning of the podcast, curiosity.
Mhm.
This week, the four of us, the topic that we were writing about was a funny childhood story. And that was
Right.
very open ended. It could be a funny childhood story about ourselves, about
Mhm.
our own children, about somebody else. And we picked very different topics for that funny childhood story.
Oh, they couldn't have been more different.
Yeah. So Michelle wrote about the time when one of our children, who shall remain at this point nameless,
Nameless.
lit a fire in the shed at the cabin and then left it. Fortunately, moments later, I had to go to the shed to drop off some garbage, and I discovered the 18-inch flames shooting out of the garbage can. Like, I mean, the fact that I went there so quick, I mean, with just who
Seconds after.
the kid could have burned down the shed very easily.
Right.
And
Of course, the fact that
because
there was a blowtorch in the shed that was operable was probably not the best idea with a curious child. I don't know how old Caden was when that happened. Oh, I'm
oh,
with
you
the
just gave it away,
he who remains
Judy.
nameless was there,
Yes.
but
Anyway, so Michelle's story was called "My Kids Are Innocent," and she really writes about the joy of her finding out that her kids weren't the ones that were, setting the fire this time, and how my, perfect babies were, coming into their own, shall we say?
exactly. Kids will be kids. That's
Kids
what
will
they
be
say.
kids,
Yeah, but we
and
just
then
never expected it.
exactly. Then Mother wrote about a story called Holes with Eyes, where she was walking behind Michelle's kids, her grandkids, and listening to Bradley tell Nathan that he had to be careful of the holes in the grass because if you look carefully, there were eyes in those holes. And she was just, I mean, the joy she was feeling, the fact that she had passed down her ability to create havoc in somebody else's mind. I mean,
To
she just gets,
terrify them.
yes, she thinks this is so hysterical to scare the bejesus out of somebody that.
Uh-huh.
Mhm. So,
Yeah.
I mean, she practically peed her pants reading her writing to us this week. She was just cackling.
All a quiver. Yep.
Yep. So, and then there was me. I wrote about what if, and this one is going to need to have a trigger warning on it because I wrote about something that I think will give during this summer season lots of people PTSD. And oh my gosh. But it was
Ah,
funny. It's funny in a way. It's funny. And but it is still traumatizing. So I carry on in my mother's tradition. And then you talk about, we're going to talk about this a little bit more today, is about child eating centipedes.
that's right. That's what I wrote about.
And each of these stories is is really funny in its own way. And it's why we love doing this project together. And so the first thing I just really want to talk about is when we write about these things, not only are we just putting them down and leaving them, but one of the things that you and I especially explore is what's going on inside of me. We are looking at these with an air of curiosity, and I think that is so valuable in our writing.
When we say curiosity, I think I'd like to explain that we mean, so how has that left an impact on us and our way of thinking? How has that left an impact on our children and their way of thinking, or the subject of these writings, or what lessons have we learned? There's more to it than just writing down a story. There's
Mhm,
always the backstory.
mhm, mhm. Yeah,
And
and
that go ahead.
yeah, and so when I'm talking about the curiosity and what's going on inside of me, I'm going to talk a little bit about my story. And to just put my story in a nutshell, I was experiencing intense anxiety. We had adopted our two boys, and this was the first summer that the two of them were really, I don't want to say running amok, but they had a little bit more independence. And and we live on a lake. We have like 350 feet of lakefront on our property. And
Uh-huh.
I was a stay-at-home mom during this period, and I I mean, I had heard people say, your children should be wearing a life vest, 100% of the time in the summer. And for whatever reasons, that didn't seem workable. And I really wanted to keep an eye on them and be vigilant in watching them and being aware that we live on the water. But
Right.
even with all of that, I was still having not panic attacks, but I was ruminating about what if, what if, what if.
You were
And
concerned. What if they fall in? What if, what's going to happen?
mhm. And so I came up with a plan that was pretty extreme. And I thought, I mean, to this day, I think it's pretty hysterical how it all came down. My husband agreed with me, and not our strategy that we used didn't lessen my determination to watch them and really keep them safe.
Right.
What it did do is it lessened my overwhelming anxiety, is what it
Okay.
did.
Okay.
Okay.
So tell us what you did.
And so, I guess our writings were a chance for me to really be curious and reflect upon, what I did and why I did it. And maybe would I do it again?
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell a little bit about your story and what it was about in a nutshell.
Well, in a
It
nutshell,
was
it
called
was
The Child Eating Centipedes.
that's correct. And I started out by talking about my gullibility. I mean, I'm probably was the most gullible little kid that was ever walked on the surface of the earth because if my big sister said it was so, it was so. And that was just the way it was. And of course, she's kind of a tease and kind of likes to play tricks. And so she used my
She likes to see
gullibility.
people traumatized. Yeah, she likes
Traumatized, yep.
to, yeah, she just has a really dark sense of humor. And
So she got me
it,
stuck in the basement. We were playing and she wanted to go find her friends, which she did. And she told me that there were centipedes, which she knew. She had knowledge of my fear of centipedes. I've never liked them. I'm actually afraid. I used to be afraid of them. Now I schmuck them, but I used to be afraid. And she had noted centipedes on the wall coming down the basement when we started our play. She said, that Judy, there's centipedes on that wall. They're attracted to red. Well, I always wore this red corduroy play outfit when we would, that was often my go-to for playtime. They're attracted to red. They can jump off the wall to bite you. And so, be really careful. And then she ran up the stairs and went out to play with her friends.
oh,
Well,
Judy, Judy,
I
Judy.
didn't leave the basement for hours. That was my, there's more to the story. You'll have to look at my writing. I think it happens on, I don't remember, Wednesday maybe. And see how it ended. But yeah, my sister got the biggest yuck out of it. And now I think it's hysterical. But I also realized how important it is to work with a child who's that gullible about the validity of some of the stories. I always say now, I wish I'd
Work
had a
with it.
couple
Wait,
of
wait, wait,
old.
wait. Stop, 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 stop. No, work with a
Okay.
child. How about our inner child? Because you're still dealing with mother's words and how they affect your A,
Ah,
self-esteem, and B, how you move through this world. So
exactly.
case in point, stop. I'm not even gonna let you go. You are getting busted on this one. Busted. Busted. Because you
Okay.
have talked in the past about how mom has told you and how she traumatized you, not just with centipedes, but with telling you that you had scabby eyes and big ears.
Exactly.
Okay. So
Exactly.
now tell the
I
story of
thought
what
I
happened
was
the
the
other day.
ugliest kid ever born. Yeah.
Tell what happened the other day.
She's going to kill me. The other day we were talking on the phone and she was talking about the fact that she felt her eyebrows had gotten kind of out of control. And she said, I just can't stand it. I have bushy eyebrows and so do you.
No.
And I
But you
said,
said that why do we have such bushy eyebrows?
oh, that's right. She said, I don't understand why we have such bushy eyebrows. And I said, bushy eyebrows? I don't have bushy eyebrows. What are you talking about? She said, oh, you most certainly do. And I said,
Mhm,
wait
mhm.
a minute. And I actually challenged her on it this time, which was a little bit better, but I thought about it a lot. And I actually went upstairs and looked at my eyebrows and I said, they're not bushy. I take care of them. But I said to you, I said, well, so now I have scabby eyes, big ears, and bushy eyebrows. So, and
And not only that, but you said, "Do you think I have bushy
oh, that's right.
eyebrows?"
I asked for confirmation. I wanted to know if, you agreed with her
Okay,
or if
let's
I
see your
just,
eyebrows. So for those people who are following us on YouTube,
okay, there's
okay.
my
So tell us
eyebrows.
what you do to your eyebrows, Judy.
Huh?
How do you care? What is the self-care you do on your eyebrows? What do you
Oh,
do?
well, I have a little shaving thing that I shave any loose hairs or hairs that are growing into the curve, and I keep this area very
Between
clean.
the brows,
Yeah,
no
and if
unibrow there.
if I should have an errant hair sticking out, I will pluck that out. And then if I have a bald spot, I'll use a little bit of blonde eyebrow pencil, and then I give them a nice brush to give them their shape. So I feel that they're fairly in control. They're darker than my hair, but they've always been darker than my hair, so I'm not going to fret too much about that. So,
Mhm, mhm.
hey, man, and I also wear glasses, and my glasses, for those who can see this on YouTube, frame my eyes, and they kind of hide my eyebrows anyway. So, oh well.
Yeah. And then we talked about my eyebrows, and I think they're probably too light on the sides, and they probably have holes because once in a while I'll get a rogue, hair in there and just pull it out. But I
Right.
do absolutely nothing. I mean, I rarely even, pluck the eyebrow hairs in the middle. So,
It's
I
very
mean, the
interesting
scheme of
topic.
life and things, our writings this week have been a fun and glorious tool for being curious and really reflecting on where we've been and not necessarily how far we've come. How we haven't changed at all.
How many years ago was that experience? And I can still kind of feel that sense of fear about those darn centipedes. So, yeah, it's a very interesting topic. And it also, I can't do what Sandy does. I cannot play practical jokes on people, or it just
Mhm.
isn't in my comfort area. And
Do you
I mean,
not um have you ever been a jokester?
uh-uh. Even with my son, people say, "Oh, you got to teach him how to be teased." Well, I've never teased him. I don't do that, but it's probably a good lesson for him to learn. And I think he has had people tease him now, and he's gotten better at it. So he and I have actually talked about it, that I just don't tease, and that
There's
all.
only one person who I've ever done a practical joke, but it's not really a joke and not really teasing, but it's between Craig and I.
Uh huh.
All the years that we've been married, randomly, we will dump a cup of cold water on each other in the shower.
In the shower. Oh well,
In the
that's
shower. Yes,
that's
just
really.
randomly, just and the longer the span of time between those dumpings, the more shocked you are. Sometimes it'll be big, sometimes it'll have ice in it. It's always, but that's as deep as we go. I mean,
I love that. I think that's really great. And what's nice about it is that somebody's not fully dressed. They're not, you haven't destroyed their
no,
day. You
no
haven't s-
lasting consequences.
you haven't screwed up their hairdo. You've
Mm-mm.
yeah. Yeah, I've had someone do that to me when I was fully dressed, ready to go out on a date back in the day when we used rollers and hair dryers and all that kind of thing. It was your
Yes,
it was your
yes, I've heard
father
this
who did
story.
that. Yeah.
Mhm.
But
So I think what we're getting at here, Judy, is if we write the stories of our lives down, it's giving us really good, concrete information about ourselves.
mhm. it
And
it's lead us to reflect about, the before and after, and just exactly what did that experience mean to us, and how has that helped us deal with things going forward, and there's all kinds of lessons to learn in our stories.
because I think we don't have to be identified and defined by the stories of our lives.
Right.
We can use it as information to understand where we've come from, what happened to us, and use it to our advantage. We can then say, okay, this is how I reacted then. How do I wish I would have reacted, or how would I react now, or how would I like to react now? And those
Hmm.
are all ways of looking at our pasts in ways that are more or less useful.
Exactly. I mean, we talk a lot, and we've talked in this podcast about how our thoughts convey to our feelings, convey to our actions, and then I don't remember the fourth one, but
Our results.
our
We are
results.
creating the results in our lives based on our thoughts. Yeah. It all
So
comes
if
in
we
a circle.
identify that this was
Mhm.
something that was scary or upsetting or whatever, we have an opportunity now to reflect and to say, okay, these were my thoughts then. My thoughts now are, it really was pretty insignificant. My feelings were, it's kind of funny, but and now in the telling, we laugh, don't we?
Mhm,
Even though at
mhm.
the
That's why we
time,
were thinking these were funny stories. So,
exactly.
looking and reflecting on that, and the centipedes, how would you have wished you had, or how do you want to move forward with your understanding of this story in the future?
Well, I
How
can
is
tell
this
you
valuable information
honestly
for
that
you?
I've never been held captive in the basement by centipedes ever again. So, I've learned that I can challenge those child-eating centipedes, and, I can also take off a shoe and have it ready to bop them if I have to.
Mhm.
It just was at the time, I had no thought that I could overcome this problem.
Hmm.
Now, wow, and I also realize now that my sister loves to play these pranks. I mean,
Yes, yes.
she laughs at the most interesting times, and, I h I have the opportunity now to not let that bother me. Sometimes I still do, but I can think in reflecting on things, I can say, "I don't have to do that anymore, I can just go forward," whatever. Um,
So really, I mean, to analogize this, the centipedes, just because mother points out a centipede in your life doesn't mean she's doing it from a good place. A.
yeah,
B,
she's
it doesn't mean that it's real, just like your eyebrows. And
yeah.
C, you're a hell of a lot bigger than a jumping centipede, and you can run fast. I mean, if you would have, you could have run up the stairs, and guess what?
I mean,
It
how
wouldn't have gotten
gullible do
you.
you have to be to stay in the basement for a couple of hours over and
Yes.
like, the picture in my mind was this wall of centipedes, like thousands. There might have been 3 centipedes on the wall, even maybe 2, it wasn't
But it really blew it up in your brain. It
yeah,
really overwhelmed you with the fear of the what if.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a good lesson is put things in perspective, bring them down to size, deal with them one at a time. And if I did run up the stairs and a centipede
Mhm.
landed on me, I would brush him off, stamp on him, and keep going. Yeah, no, and people listening are saying, "Oh my God, how deep are they going to go into this?" But it's true that we do need to think about things and reflect on them and look at our stories. And I mean, the story about your who he who will not be named lighting a fire in the shed, that could have been serious,
Yes.
but it wasn't.
Mhm.
And I mean, think lessons were learned all around. I think the first thing was to put the blowtorch away. Second thing was, kids do we've had a couple issues over the years with our kids lighting things on fire, like remember paper
Yeah.
towels and things like that. And
Yep.
it's something that it's we've used it as a really strong learning experience. And
Yeah,
but if
to this day, Bradley swears that I threw him across the campsite when, yeah, I mean,
when you
when those were
discovered it,
4-foot flames, that I did rather aggressively push him away from the flames. I will give you that. And he was on the patio table bench. So
uh-huh,
to his 4-year-old body, I probably felt like Supermaned him across the campsite. I mean, I was pretty freaked,
you
needless to
did
say.
not want him to get burned. That was your main intention, and number one,
Mm.
and then you don't want it to get the fire out. But I think every child has a
And this will
fascination
be
of
something he'll
fire.
have to write about from his perspective
I
and
love
deal
it.
with being curious about it, reflect on why it's so huge in his brain, and then really evaluate, his thoughts and feelings about the situation.
Well, and like I've brought the thousands of centipedes down to maybe 2 or 3, he may have to
Mhm.
bring down the being thrown across the campground and so on and
Campsite.
so forth, down to real size and change his thought process and memory about that situation. But is that useless information? No, it's valuable. And that trauma he suffered, even though I think it was rather temporary, has probably kept him from playing with fire after that. Do
I
you
don't
think?
know.
I
I
don't
don't know.
know
I think
either.
once a pyromaniac, always a pyromaniac, to be honest with you. But maybe he got better at his pyro tendencies. How's that sound?
Whoa,
Maybe it
that's
led to more carefulness.
more carefulness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think
So,
it's a boy thing. I never lit anything on fire, did you?
oh, I did. I
Did
think
you?
Mother said Michelle and I both were playing with matches on the same rug in her bedroom at the other house. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yep. Hmm. Yeah, I think
Wow.
it's a pretty common kid thing. Yeah. So
See,
anyway, with that, Judy, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. So the funny stories that we wrote this week were definitely had some hidden gems in them that we decided and had fun exploring with one another both before and after the
and
fact.
after.
The
Yeah,
fact that I
so
constantly have to shush you guys during writing is evidence to the fact that we really enjoy sharing these stories with one another,
yes,
and
we
we
do.
we do
Yes,
do a
we
lot
do.
of processing both before and after, so that our stories aren't just a legacy, but they're something much more valuable to our current lives as well.
Exactly. That's absolutely the truth. And I think in this case, being curious, exploring where am I coming from, and then reflecting, before, how did you choose that topic? What happened after? What did you take away from it as a lesson? What did the person involved take away? Those are valuable things to do and can really lead to a better, I can't think of my word, a better adjusted person going
I think
forward.
it enables us to move forward in a more thoughtful and purposeful way in how we want to live and act in our current lives.
That's perfectly said. I think that's a great ending.
Cool. Okay, with that, Judy, love you and look forward to talking to you soon.
Okay, take care.
Cool. Okay, bye bye.
Bye bye.